right, 18 weeks of football gone, and we arrive at the NFL playoff time. It always feels like it flies by. And I remember, I don't know if I said this on the podcast. I don't believe I did, but I remember it was about week 5 or 6, and I sat there while watching NFL and thought to myself, yeah, I really got to enjoy this. I got to soak this up because there's going to be a time in the spring or summer where I'll look back and be like, man, that NFL season just flew by. I miss the NFL. So you got to soak up that week 6 Eagles-Giants game you're randomly watching at 4 p.m. and enjoy that, because there's going to be a time when you wish you were watching NFL, and, you know, you got to enjoy that while it happens, you know? But anyways, tonight I was meant to record this yesterday, got busy, something came up, so I had to postpone it to today. So I realized probably not the best podcast etiquette to put out your predictions a day before they actually happen, because by tomorrow, no one will be interested in hearing what I have to hear, except me. Sometimes I do like to go back. I don't really so full disclosure, I don't listen to this podcast like myself. I don't re-listen to my own thoughts. It's not something I do. But I will go back every once in a while. It'll be like 11 o'clock at night, and this happens like maybe once every 6 months. I'll like go back through some of my old predictions episodes, whether it's playoff predictions, beginning of the year predictions, stuff like that, and see what I said. Because to me, that is like super funny and interesting to see, like, when I was like really high on a certain team or I was really low on this team. That's what's fun to me. Look back on that stuff, quite humorous. Let's get into the show today. Tonight we got Ohio State versus Texas. I fully believe it's going to be an Ohio State-Notre Dame national championship. I've thought that since my original picks. My original pick, which was Boise State winning, lost to Penn State. I was like, Ohio State-Notre Dame would be a cool national title. 2 delusional fan bases, 2 teams that haven't won in a while, 2 strong programs historically, 2 Midwest schools. That'd be really fun. Freeman, obviously, Ohio State alumni and all that, so that makes it interesting, and it appears like that's what we're going to get as long as Ohio State takes care of business this evening. And I think Ohio State will end up being national champions, which is just so funny and quite wild, given, everything that happened for them this year. But enough of that. It's NFL time, baby. Before we get into the NFL awards predictions, I just want to say the Titans having the number 1 pick is very weird, because to me they felt like the team that's going to go pay Sam Darnold or Kirk Cousins or somebody like that. Well, they wouldn't have to pay Kirk Cousins. He's getting paid anyways. But trade for Kirk Cousins or something like that. Just former Vikings quarterbacks, apparently. Where's Case Keenum for the Titans, right? But them having the number 1 pick is quite odd, because I think they're probably like, well, I guess we could take Shador, or we could take Cam Ward. It's like I think they kind of probably have their mind set on Travis. So it'll be interesting if they still go with Travis. Abdul Carter played so well last night. I'm afraid he's not going to be there for my Panthers. So that's disappointing. But realistically, there's chatter about us getting Garrett Wilson. I'm not going to get too excited. It would be pretty sweet if we could trade for Garrett Wilson, but I don't want to have to give up the 8th pick for him, because that's dangerous, giving up the number 8 pick for Garrett Wilson. I mean, come on. Whew. But regardless of all that, I just think the Titans are a weird number 1 pick. It's going to take a little bit till this draft takes shape. We'll have to see, what the chatter starts to be, who wants Shador, who doesn't. Is he going to be a Giant? That's kind of the most interesting team for him in my mind. I think there's an argument the Raiders could trade up and get him, and that'd be interesting. But I think the most interesting one is the Giants. Get him with Neighbors immediately. That'd be really fun. Let's get into the NFL awards, though. MVP. This has been the big one, a lot of talk. Bengals did not make the playoffs, so that kind of killed the whole Joe Burrow MVP thing that was kind of happening for a minute there. That's obviously gone now that they're out of the playoffs altogether. But who are they going to go with? I'm going to be honest. I want Josh Allen to win it. I believe he deserves it. When it comes to the NBA, it seems that they value narrative over statistics. Now, granted, I would say part of that was the reason Embiid won. But Embiid, you say to Ryan, but Embiid was the league leader in points in 2022 when he won MVP. That would mean they were leaning on statistics. By all stats other than that, Jokic was better. All the advanced stats, everything, not even the advanced. I think he had more rebounds that year. I could check right now, but I guarantee he had more assists. Jokic was better statistically, other than points. And they gave it to Embiid, and part of it was narrative. Jokic had won back-to-back MVPs. I take that back, sorry. He did not win back-to-back MVPs. He won back-to-back in 23-24. He had won MVP the year before. There was a debate, Jokic or Embiid, who is better, blah, blah, blah. That was the big discussion, right? And so they gave it to Embiid because that was where the narrative was going, is that Embiid was on Jokic's level. And then Jokic won actually, I take that back. Sorry. Yes, he did win back-to-back MVPs. Why did I make it so Embiid won 2022? That is my mistake. Sorry. Embiid won the 2023 NBA MVP. I am so sorry about that. I rarely mess up my NBA MVP years. It's usually I get those down pat. And sorry, that was confusing. Embiid won the MVP in 2023 after Jokic won back-to-back in 21-22 because the narrative was pointing to Embiid is on Jokic's level. They're tit for tat back and forth, right? Well, then Embiid lost the second round that year, I think. I think he won the first round. But then he lost the second round, and then Jokic went on to win the finals in dominating fashion. And everybody was like, wow, we really messed up. So thus, Jokic was a lock for MVP last year because they owed it to him. I honestly think he probably should win MVP this year if they can at least get in the top 5 best records in the West. But that's a conversation for another podcast. Regardless of the story, the NBA leans on narrative more so than they do statistics. Stats are obviously big, but just because you lead the league in scoring doesn't really mean jack shit sometimes. Bradley Beal led the league in scoring one year. He didn't win MVP for obvious reasons. So I am saying I think the NFL leans a lot more on the statistics. If you're throwing for over 40 touchdowns, have under, 6 or 7 interceptions, you're probably going to win. Your league leader in passing yards and touchdowns, probably going to win. Like it's pretty statistic based as opposed to narrative based, which is interesting because the NFL is significantly better at forming narratives than the NBA is when it comes to marketing. So I just think that's interesting. But I want Josh Allen to win. I think he deserves to win, but I think that's also the narrative, right? The narrative is that Josh Allen hasn't won one yet. He's clearly deserving. I think we all kind of think he's the second best quarterback in the NFL, and the only reason we're not saying he's the best is because we feel like we have to say Mahomes is the best because he's won 3 Super Bowls in the span of 5 years. He's been in 4 out of the last 5 Super Bowls, and he's won 3 of them. I think that's why we all feel like we have to say Mahomes, because there are some games where Mahomes looks like the best quarterback in the NFL, but we haven't had a game like that since last season. He has yet to have a game this year where he looks like the best quarterback in the NFL. Josh Allen has had those games, and Lamar has had those games. I think Josh Allen should win it, but I think they're going to give it to Lamar. I do. I just do. And I said at the beginning of the year that if Josh Allen got this team to win the division, I said just the playoffs, but I might have just said just the playoffs. He deserved to win it. I 100% think Josh Allen deserves it. I think he should win it. If I was picking, I'd vote for him. But they're going to give it to Lamar. And you guys know I'm not going to be too upset about that because it's my second favorite quarterback in the NFL. So I think at this point it goes Baker, Lamar, Bryce. But Bryce is really starting to make a run for Lamar. I really love Bryce Young. What happened to Herbert? 4th. Sorry, guys. It's tough at the top. It's brutal. Offensive player of the year. It's going to be Saquon. He almost broke Eric Dickerson's record. Props to Saquon. The only thing that's interesting about that is I was talking about how I wanted to see Eric Dickerson hold on to it. Saquon had an extra game, blah, blah, blah. And in the same sense, one could argue when Eric Dickerson broke it, he had 2 extra games because Bo Jackson had the record in 14 games. So I'm sure that was a conversation back then. So this is all me saying, eventually it's going to be broken, and we're all going to be like, wah, 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 probably me included. And then in 20 years, no one will care, and they'll eventually move to another game to the schedule, and then it'll be like, wah, wah, Saquon was a you know what I mean? It'll always be Saquon to me. And it's like, we're just kind of being dumb, I guess. Podcasting 101, I guess. Yell at your audience and tell them they're dumb. That was really rude of me. But sorry about that. But hopefully I was just trying to make my point clear. Defensive player of the year. Tried to talk to somebody the other night about this, and I was like, who do you think should win it? And he said TJ Watt. And then I forgot he was a diehard Steelers fan that also probably looks at a lot of Pickensburg tweets. Because then he started talking about how Tomlin doesn't really deserve his job. So that made me lean more so on the idea that TJ Watt's not winning it, just out of spite. So I think Patrick Surtain's going to win it, just because I think they're going to spice it up. And that Broncos defense was very good all year. And Sean Payton's not going to win Coach of the Year, so I think the Broncos got to be represented in some aspect in these NFL awards because that team really overperformed. So Patrick Surtain, I think you're winning this. Offensive Rookie of the Year, Jade Daniels locked it up months ago. Not months ago. Actually, I'm take that back. A couple weeks ago. I understand. Well, Nixie's been great. Drake May. I think Drake May's awesome. I love Drake May. Probably my 5th favorite quarterback in the NFL. I'm telling you, it's stacked at the top, baby. It's so stacked. But I think Jade Daniels deserves it. I think he's had the most wow moments. I think he's been one everybody's been impressed by the most. And so it's got to be Jaden Daniels. Defensive Rookie of the Year, Jared Verse. I remember picking him at the beginning of the year. I'm going to stick with it here. There wasn't any defensive rookie that just absolutely exploded. He's got okay numbers, but I think that Rams team made the playoffs. He's one of the better players on their defense, so he'll win it. Comeback Player of the Year. I would love for this to be Bryce Young. I think he wholeheartedly deserves it. But the NFL has made it very clear that it is based off a player that had an injury the year before. Like, I don't think Bryce is technically eligible. I don't think being bad and then becoming good is how Comeback Player of the Year works. Which I don't know why it doesn't work like that, but I think it has to be an injury of some sort. So I guess it's going to be Joe Burrow, which is fine. Like, I like Joe Burrow. But comeback, it's like, yeah, we all thought Joe Burrow would be fine. Like, we all figured it'd be more surprising if he wasn't this good anymore. Does that make sense? So, I don't know. They gave it to Joe Flacco last year, which, great for Joe Flacco. He played great. But I don't think he should have won it over DeMar Hamlin, who, had a point where his heart wasn't beating and now starts on defense for a team that I believe can win the Super Bowl. I think he deserved it. I just want to state. Now, granted, I should go back and listen to my podcast from last year because I think I was like, oh, good for Joe. But I think I'd still, at that point, I know hindsight's 20/20, but I'm willing to bet even then I was like, maybe we should have given it to DeMar Hamlin because, I know it's the obvious choice, but sometimes things are obvious for good reason. So that's my piece. I think Joe Burrow will win this. That's fine. Coach of the Year. I think Kevin O'Connell lost it. I think Kevin O'Connell, to me, made the most sense the whole year. But once Dan Campbell went 15-2 and knocked them down to 14-3, it's just going to feel weird awarding Coach of the Year to a guy who, in the last game of the NFL season, that probably a ton of people watched because it was Sunday Night Football, they saw get absolutely dismantled and absolutely outcoached. And I love Brian Flores, and I'd love for him to get a head coaching position. But he got absolutely waxed by Dan Campbell and company. Also, I saw the Lions DC declined a head coach interview. I absolutely love how they're just like, nah, we staying here. I think the Lions might legitimately be building like a perennial contender. Like a team like the Steelers a little bit, where like they're just going to be good for the next 15 years, and Campbell's going to coach there forever, and they're going to have some years where they win 9 games, and they're going to have some years they win 14 or 15. Like, I think this is the start of a long run. I don't think, I don't think it'll be Goff in 5 to 10 years. I don't. I think Goff will eventually be done, and they'll find somebody new to work in. Like, I think they're just going to become like a perennial beast, kind of like the Packers. Like, I honestly think that's what the Lions are building towards. They've built that strong of a culture. Now, granted, that could be an overreaction. Hey, Ryan, they have yet to even win a Super Bowl yet. I understand that. We'll get into my Super Bowl predictions in a bit. But I think Coach of the Year is Dan Campbell. 15-2, a team that is very good, and a team that I think every week looked like probably the best team in football consistently. Overall, over the whole year, this was the most consistent team. I think it's just a team everybody loves. This is America's team, and I think they want to reward that. So you should get Coach of the Year, and that's that. Let's move into the playoff predictions, baby. It's been sitting on your screen the whole time. Let's get into it. We're going to start off the AFC. Wild card. Numbers. You know what? Just for the wild card round, we'll go through off the schedule. So tomorrow, Saturday at 4:30, we got Chargers-Texans. This Texans team. I really hope they reach the heights that I was hoping they were going to. I really hope they do next year. Had a lot of injury problems. But it's just kind of upsetting to see. I guess I was a year early. I always say it's about a year earlier than you think, not a year later. It's going to be about the year people thought, because people said in about 2 years that Texans team would be really good. And I was like, no, I think it'll be good next year. May have jumped the gun. I'm taking the Chargers to beat them. They just don't have good mojo. They got absolutely destroyed on Christmas Day. They only put up 2 points. Their only points are from a safety. That's bad. And it pains me to say it. At least it's a Chargers team that I really enjoy. So, taking the Chargers to beat the Texans tomorrow at 4:30. Tomorrow at 8 p.m., we got Steelers-Ravens. I made the rule that if the Steelers lost the Chiefs on Christmas Day, I would not take them to win a playoff game. I'm sticking by that. I think this will be a fun game, though. But I'm taking Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens to beat them. Let's go into the next game, which is Sunday at 1 o'clock. We got Broncos-Bills. I think if you're picking the Broncos, you're just trying to be cute and different. This Bills team has looked like the best team in the AFC a lot of weeks. You're just trying to be cute and different if you're taking the Broncos. Taking the Bills here. Sunday at 4:30, we got Packers-Eagles. This is an interesting one because I think the Packers are better than a 7 seed, but I have to admit the Eagles have been playing quite well. I'm going to take the Eagles. If you asked me this a year ago, I would have taken the Packers, though. I wasn't high on the Eagles last year. I've kind of come around to the point where I've accepted the fact this Eagles team is very good. Sunday Night Football. Commies-Bucks. This is the most fun game in my mind by far. I think either team can win it. I think the general audience has really come to enjoy Baker Mayfield, which is good because he's super fun. And I think most people are watching this kind of happy with either result. It's a fun Bucks team or a super fun Commanders team that feels like they're ahead of schedule. Either way, it's fun, but I think the Bucks can kind of dismantle them, honestly. I don't think this will be as good of a game as we want it to be. Maybe I'm wrong. But, I mean, if I'm the Bucks, I don't want to be in a close game with the Commies. They always seem to somehow win those. I'm taking the Bucks to win this. Monday Night Football, we got Vikings-Rams. I know I should say something like, don't get too caught up in thinking that Vikings team we saw last Sunday is the Vikings. They're really good. They've been really good all year. Blah, blah, blah. That's what I should be saying. I know that. But I don't think that. I think they looked really bad. And I think a part of them is ready for the J.J. McCarthy experience. And you're probably like, Darian, that's outrageous. You're just just a J.J. McCarthy, shill. You go crazy for everything J.J. I understand that. I understand that's what you're thinking. But I genuinely think Sam Darnold's doing a system there, and he's playing quite well in it, and that they're ready for J.J. to be the new guy in that system next year. I think the Rams are going to beat him. It's also a Rams team that I kind of liked to win one playoff game. But the Rams are not, this is not the Rams team of old. This might not even be as good as last year's Rams team. Like, this Rams team is not that impressive. They would have to squeak this one out. It'll be a fun Monday Night Football game. So we did all the wild card games. Now let's go into the AFC, and we'll do the divisionals. So that sets us up with the Chargers-Chiefs divisional next week. I'm going to take the Chiefs here, as much as I think it'd be really fun to pick the Chargers, and I probably would have at the beginning of the year. The fact that the Chiefs went 15-2 makes me feel like they are obviously, it's a lot for me to sell on. I would love for the Chargers to be the ones to take them down, but I don't think they're the ones to slay the dragon. So Chiefs win. Ravens-Bills, I am sure this will be the Sunday Night Football game. Absolutely sure. Because for divisional, I think they go double on Saturday, double on Sunday. And I'm willing to bet, if you made me guess, Chargers-Chiefs, they probably just do AFC Sunday, right? Bills-Ravens is the night game. And then NFC is Saturday with, what, is Lions-Rams? Lions-Rams is probably the Saturday night game. I think a part of them would want to make Lions-Rams the Sunday night game, just because it's what they did last year. But I think Ravens-Bills is more interesting. So, Ravens-Bills, I am taking the Bills to win. I think this is the best Bills team Josh Allen's ever had. From a roster perspective, it should be the worst. But the way he's playing with them, and the way he's got them going, and the way that defense is played, I think it's honestly the best team he's ever had. And I give a lot of credit to Sean McDermott. There's a little bit of talk this offseason. Is Sean McDermott really the guy? Blah, 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 blah. Clearly he is. because he's done a great job with this team, and I think his Bills team is very good. So that gives us a Chiefs-Bills AFC Championship. The Bills have already beat the Chiefs one time this year. It's the only loss this year where the Chiefs played all their starters, and the only loss this year for the Chiefs where they played all their starters. The only other game they lost to the Broncos in Week 18 where they rested everybody. Carson Wentz was not dealing. I'm taking the Bills here. I think the Bills really impressed me. And you guys know in the past I've kind of been a bit of a Bills hater. And maybe it was seeing them live this year, but I think this team is really special. And I think Josh is ascending to another plane. And I think we all kind of don't want this Chiefs team to go far. Like last year, I understood why some people weren't here for it. But you guys know I still had a soft spot for the Chiefs. And I took them to win the Super Bowl, and I just thought they were better than the Niners. And I kind of fell back in love with it for a bit. And this year, they've kind of pissed me off because they haven't been the fun Chiefs that you love to watch. They haven't been a fun watch. They just eke out every win. It's not really fun. And the Bills are kind of that new team where they're fun to watch. You love watching that quarterback. You always feel like he can get him out of any situation. That's what the Bills have become. And the Lions have become just this team that just so much fun to watch. And so the Chiefs just aren't that fun anymore. And I think that's part of the reason everybody wants to see them lose, along with the fact that, success breeds haters. That's part of it too. And that makes it sound like I'm like a cheat, like, you guys are hating because they're good. It's not what I'm doing. I'm just saying, like, naturally, that's the way it's going to go. It's this weird dichotomy of everybody always wants to believe they're seeing the greatest player ever. They're seeing the greatest team ever. Everybody always wants to believe they're witnessing greatness, but then also everybody gets sick of winners. It's the weirdest dichotomy because the general public hates when a team is dominant, but also loves to feel like they saw the GOAT. It's such a weird thing because you kind of need one to have the other, But I think the Bills are going to beat the Chiefs. I don't think the Chiefs are going to three-peat. I just can't see it with this team. Their luck has to run out at some point. And I guess one would argue maybe it won't. Obviously, there's a lot of talk. People are always like, oh, they're rigging it for the Chiefs, the refs. And, my sister makes jokes about the Chiefs refs. And she's like, I bet Mahomes is going to fake an injury. Like, it's getting out of hand. It's getting out of hand because, like, my sister doesn't pay that much attention. And the fact that she was like, Mahomes is going to fake an injury, like, that shows you how the Chiefs, like, probably the best quarterback of this era, and will probably go down as one of the great. No, it's not even probably at this point. He will definitely go down as one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. And the way the general public sees him is refs help him out, baby that fakes injuries. Like, it's just. I mean, granted, though, Brady had the refs help him out narrative, and that disappeared, and now we all just respect him as the GOAT. It's such a weird. I don't know. The public perception of the Chiefs is just completely disgusting right now. And not in like a good way. It's just gross, and I'm sick of it. And I'm not sick of. Like, I'm not as sick of the Chiefs winning as I'm as sick of people, like, complaining about it and stuff like that, and just the way they're portrayed. That's what I'm mostly sick of, and I'm excited for the Bills to end that because I think everybody just thinks this Bills team is fun. So if you're like, Ryan, are you just predicting this because it's what you want? Kind of, yeah, because I think the Super Bowl I'm going to pick is really fun, and I think it's the one that'd make everybody the most happy. But I'm going to be honest. We'll just go to the NFC. I'll explain in a second. So we got Rams-Lions, taking the Lions to win. This Lions team is better than last year. This Rams team is worse than last year. Done, dusted. Bucks-Eagles. I like the Bucks here for an upset. They upset them last year. I know you're probably like, wow, you said they're really nonchalant, and that's a really aggressive pick. Guess what? I think Baker is just magic when it comes to when you don't think Baker's going to win, he somehow gets it done. When all the chips are in his favor, he fails. And I don't think the chips are in his favor in this game, so I genuinely believe he's going to get it done here. This will be a super fun game. This will probably be the Saturday afternoon game, and it'll be surprisingly great, and Baker will ball out, and I hope they wear the orange jerseys. The creamsicles, those are awesome. That gives us an NFC championship of Bucks-Lions. A lot of people probably did not expect to see that, but I am going to take the Lions. I understand you're like, well, you don't talk about the chips against Baker. Hoo-wee, it'd be right here. I understand that, but he also isn't a magician. He is Baker touchdown maker. He is not Baker magic. That's Fitzmagic. So get your football nicknames right. He cannot beat the Lions. The Lions are too powerful for him. They have the power of friendship and love on their side, and brotherly love, more so than Philadelphia does, because that Detroit team is epic and fun and cool. That gives us a Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans with Bills versus Lions. Here's the sad part. I think this is the most fun Super Bowl possible for the NFL this year. You have the quarterback that everybody seems to enjoy against a team that everybody seems to enjoy. Either way, I'm happy with the result. Genevieve would obviously love it if the Bills won, and I would love that for her. That'd be super fun for her. My mother would obviously love it if the Lions won. Ooh, she's watched every Lions game this year and become a big Lions fan. I'm happy with either result. The sad part of the matter is, if we had two universes lined up and one had Chiefs Lions and the other had Bills Lions, I guarantee you Chiefs Lions has more viewership. Why is that? Because if pro wrestling has taught us anything, people will tune in for someone they love, but everyone will tune in for someone they hate. And that's just the truth of the matter. When it comes to television ratings, hate is a stronger pull than love. Now, in general, I would like to believe love is a stronger emotion than hate. Just in general. I feel like that's a better way to think about the world. But when it comes to television ratings, we have seen if WWE does a babyface versus babyface, it will not hit as strong as if they do a babyface versus a heel. So most likely, if you're doing babyface, if you're doing Cody Rhodes versus John Cena at the WrestleMania this year, if WrestleMania 41 in Las Vegas, Triple H, you're doing Cody Rhodes versus John Cena, are you going to make Cody Rhodes slightly heel? I'm not saying go full Cody Lander. I'm not saying that. But I am saying you're going to have to do it slightly because there ain't no way we're booing John Cena when he's going for his 17th world title. We will not be booing my GOAT, Triple H. You know this. So is that really the plan? Why aren't we doing Gunther Cena? I must admit, I am more interested in Cody Cena, but we can't do it straight babyface. It will not work. Also, we better be doing Rock Roman this year. I know you're trying to trick us. I want Rock Roman. I deserve Rock Roman. I saw a report you're doing Logan Paul versus Gunther. That better be a lie because that would be terrible. So for the winner of Super Bowl 59, I'm taking the Lions, baby. Woo! The Detroit Lions. Taking them to win Super Bowl MVP. You know what? Jared Goff. Let's give it to Jared Goff. Why not? That's the most fun. Realistically, it probably end up being like Brian Branch or something. He picks off Josh Allen for a big play. Brian Branch has been awesome this year. Got to give him credit. Or Joseph, right? He had a great game, Joseph. I mean, against the Vikings, he almost like pretty much won in that game. You could argue that Jahmyr Gibbs might be a Super Bowl MVP pick, or even Amon-Ra, right? But I'm going to go with Jared Goff just because I think it's most fun, and that would be the most interesting. And I think everybody would love that. So that's what I'm taking. Taking the Lions to win Super Bowl 59. Just want to point out of the last... oh, goodness. Out of the last, 5 Super Bowls? Yeah, so 58 to 54. I have only predicted the winner correctly twice, and it was Super Bowl 54. I took the Chiefs to beat the Niners, and then Super Bowl 58, I took the Chiefs to beat the Niners. But for Bucks Chiefs, I took the Chiefs. For Bengals Rams, I took the Bengals, and for Eagles Chiefs, I took the Eagles. So we'll see. I mean, if it does come up to being Bills Lions, I'm obviously not going to change my pick. Now, granted, maybe I will. Maybe I'll watch the Bills in the playoffs and I'll be like, oh, I think they're going to win now. That'd be wild. But we'll see. I'll see what I do. All right. That's it for the playoff predictions. Let's look back at my predictions at the beginning of the year for what I thought was going to happen in the NFL this year. This will be a fun rundown of how wrong I am, because it's always good to humble myself publicly. You know, public humiliation. Just tale as old as time. They used to do that in Mesopotamia. 2024 season predictions. Why are we still at 17 games? I must have talked about the fact that we need to move to 18 because that would place the Super Bowl the day before President's Day, which I think everyone would like. So that would be awesome. It would make Super Bowl weekend like a holiday weekend essentially, and it should be. It is Super Bowl is like such a big deal in American culture that it doesn't make sense that it's not the day before. Like, it would make perfect sense that like nationally everyone gets the day off after. It also would be fun for the fans. They get to celebrate more, and it just would be great. All right, so AFC East, I had the Jets going 11-6. They went 5-12. I'm not going to be too hard on myself here. I wasn't high on the Jets in 2023. In 2024, I kind of changed my tune for some reason. Should have stayed the course. Should have stayed down out on them. It was not my best work. And then I took the Bills to be 10-7. They ended up at 13-4. I've talked at length about how I was wrong about this Bills team and how I've been really happy with them. Number 3 in the AFC East, I had the Dolphins going 10-7. I had a lot of faith in this division. The Dolphins ended up at 8-9. The fact they went 8-9 is kind of crazy when you think. I don't know, the Dolphins haven't been very good this year, but I was only 2 games off. And number 4, I had the Patriots going 5-12. They went 4-13. I'm pretty okay with that. AFC North, I had the Ravens going 12-5. They went 12-5 and won the division, like I said. I had the Bengals going 11-6. They ended up going 9-8. So not too bad, but not too good there. Browns, I had at 10-7. I thought that was generous at the time. Should have went lower. Should have went way lower. So they went 3-14, one of the worst teams in the NFL. Steelers, I had at 9-8. They went 10-7. Honestly, I was pretty high on the Steelers. I don't know if that's true because I had them 4th in the division, so never mind. That's not true. I had them 9-8. I knew they'd have a winning record. I was only 1 game off, though, so I'm okay with that. But, granted, they have been on a 4-game losing streak, so I could have been really wrong. AFC West, I had the Chargers winning at 12-5. They went 11-6, so it wasn't outrageous. It was just the Chiefs did even better than I expected. I thought the Chiefs go 11-6, kind of take the season easy. They seemed to take the season easy, but somehow went 15-2. At 3, I had the Raiders at 5-12. They went 4-13. I had the Broncos last at 4-13. They went 10-7. I was not a Bo believer. I was not a Bo believer at all, and I was wrong. Nixie and Sean Payton got it done. AFC South, I had the Texans going 13-4. You guys know I was super high on this team. They ended up going 10-7. I had the Colts second, 11-6. They went 8-9. Disappointing year for the Colts. An underrated, disappointing year for the Colts. I just don't know what that team's direction is, and that's really sad. I had the Jaguars going 9-8. They were awful. They went 4-13, and then I had the Titans going 8-9. They went 3-14. Really bad. Want to point out, I did have them in perfect order, but every single team had like way more wins in my world. So I got the AFC South order right, but I did not. It's the only division so far that I've got all right placement-wise, but nowhere close to their games. NFC East, I had the Eagles coming in first. I took them to go 11-6. Should have been more generous. They went 14-3. So behind them, I had the Cowboys at 8-9. I remember people saying that was a bit outrageous. I was about on the money as they went 7-10. I had the Commanders coming in third. Wow, I called them the Commanders for once. I took them 7-10. They obviously overperformed. They went 12-5. Then the Giants coming in last at 3-14. Bingo, bango, bongo. I got that one right. NFC North. I had the Lions winning the division with a record of 13-4. They even outperformed that, and that was an aggressive move by me. They went 15-2. Had the Packers behind them at 11-6. The Packers did go 11-6, but they were not second in the division. I had the Bears at third at 9-8. A couple people said it was a little low. I should have went even lower. 5-12 for the Bears came in last. Fourth at 5-12. I thought the Vikings were going to be 5-12. I thought they would basically be the Bears. Vikings did great this year, went 14-3. NFC West. I picked the Rams to win at 12-5. I was a little aggressive on this Rams team. Thought they'd be better than they were. They went 10-7. Behind them, I had the Niners at 11-6. The Niners went 6-11. They ended the year on a 4-game losing streak. It was a bad year for the Niners. Cardinals, I had third, which they were third, but I had them 10-7. They went 8-9. And then Seahawks, I had fourth. Just didn't think Mike McDonald would have a very good year there, and they did. They went 10-7. Decent record for them, his first year there. Don't really know what they're going to do quarterback-wise because I feel like they kind of peak at a 10-7 record and like a wild card appearance with Geno. That's probably their peak with this roster. I don't really know what the move is. It's just kind of a weird spot the Seahawks are in. But I had them going 6-11. They went 10-7. NFC South. All right. I was really high on my Panthers, and I took them to be 11-6. I must say, next year I'm going to take them to probably be around that range, and I'm going to take them to win the division. And I genuinely think I'm onto something. I really think we're moving in the right direction. I was definitely a year early for that. And you guys remember those pods, and I was saying Bryce Young was not our savior. I'm not going to delete those. I did not believe in him, and I was wrong. I gave up on him, and he proved me wrong. But I'm a firm believer in the fact that your opinion is allowed to change. Number 2, I had the Falcons, which I was right about them being number 2. I had them at 10-7. They went 8-9. I was pretty good on that one. 3, I had the Bucs at 9-8. They went 10-7, so a game above what I thought, and they won the division. And then 4th, I had the Saints at 6-12. I just didn't do the math correctly because that's 18 games. So I guess I really was thinking about how I won 18 games. But they went 5-12. So I get half a point for that, I guess. But that's it. I don't think these are my worst predictions I've ever done, but not exactly the best either. I don't think there was anything too outrageous. Really the Jets and the Panthers are the main two that stick out. A lot of teams, it was like, I thought they were going to be bad, but I didn't think they'd be bad enough. And then the teams I thought would be good, I didn't have them good enough. Like the teams, like I thought the Lions would be good, but I didn't think they'd be this good. I thought the Eagles would be good. I didn't think they'd be this good. And then I thought the Bears would be bad. I didn't think they'd be this bad. That's kind of where a lot of mine come from. There's still a couple surprises, like the Commies. Bills were way better than I expected. Finns were worse. Like it's just stuff like that, but not my worst work, honestly. 2024 NFL Awards. MVP, I had Jordan Love. This was a popular pick at the time, and I think it was interesting, but I obviously not, right? Part of it was the injuries, but it'll be interesting if he becomes like a popular pick again in the future. Offensive Player of the Year, Garrett Wilson. So much Jets hype coming into this year, and I was riding it. Defensive Player of the Year, Aiden Hutchinson. This was an excellent pick, and it honestly looked like it was going to happen. A couple of my friends were like, Aiden Hutchinson isn't that good. I'm like, yeah, he is. And he was on track to probably win it, and then he got hurt. Hopefully he's back for the Super Bowl. Offensive Rookie of the Year, had Marvin Harrison Jr. This was the obvious choice. He didn't have a bad year by any means, but Malik Neighbors was better than him. That's what I also want to point out. Like, Jeremiah Smith is incredible, right? I think Jeremiah Smith now is better than Marvin when he was in college. Jeremiah Smith is so good. But I do want to point out that we did this with Marv. We're like, oh my gosh, he should be number 1. He's so good. And it's like, yeah, he gets the NFL, and Malik Neighbors is better. Now, granted, maybe Jeremiah Smith's different. Maybe he will go, 3rd or 4th in his draft, and he'll instantly be like a top 5 receiver, like Justin Jefferson was. Justin Jefferson didn't go top 5 in his draft, obviously, but I'm saying, Justin Jefferson pretty instantly was amazing. Maybe Jeremiah Smith will be like that. But I am saying, we do this with wide receivers sometimes. We're just like, he should be number 1. He's so good. We did this with Marvin Harrison Jr., and it's like, he's not even the best wide receiver in his class. Hell, he's not even second. Brian Thomas Jr. is better than him. Now, granted, maybe in 10 years he'll end up being the best. But for the time being, I would take Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr. over him. I just want to point that out. I think we get a little too excited sometimes. Me included, for what it's worth. Defensive Rookie of the Year, I took Jared Verse. I think it's going to be Jared Verse. I'm happy with that one. Comeback Player of the Year, I took Bryce Young, unaware of the fact that he really couldn't win it. Technically, it wasn't my worst pick in hindsight. Coach of the Year, I had Dave Canales. This might be next year. All right. My AFC champion. We'll just scroll through my we'll just go straight to the AFC Championship. AFC Championship, I had Texans over Bengals. NFC Championship, I had Packers over Lions. That gave us a Texans-Packers Super Bowl, which I took the Texans to win it, and I had C.J. Stroud make Super Bowl MVP. My hot takes, I had the Chargers having a better record than the Chiefs, the Rams being a Super Bowl contender, and the Panthers will turn it around and win the division. I was wrong on all 3 of those, but that's why they're hot takes. I honestly think the Packers are about as good as I expected them to be, except for the fact I thought Jordan Love would be consistently called a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. And I think he's fringe that right now because he has some big games and he has some games where he's bad. It just depends on the week. But he always seems to show up in January and December. Like they've showed stats before that late in the season, Jordan Love really steps up. So maybe he's going to become January Jordan. You know, we'll see. It's going to be really fun NFL playoffs. Very excited. I have the Lions winning. I think it's the most fun outcome. I think it's also the outcome that will happen. They look like the best team in the NFL. They're also the most fun team in the NFL. And it'll be fun for America's team to get it done. That's it from me. Hopefully they wear the black jerseys in the Super Bowl because that would be badass and awesome. Thank you all. We'll talk about everything that happens next week, and I'll probably do a pick for the national championship. If it's Ohio State Notre Dame, I'm just going to take Ohio State, but we'll probably talk about it a little more. So that's it from me. Thank you all, and I appreciate you listening to this, especially if you've already watched some of these games and you were just curious to see what I had to say. That's super kind. That's very nice of you. Thank you.